How did Darius do? I mean, it's been a little while since he played left tackle, but he's certainly played it before. How did he do?
Yeah, assignment-wise, Darius gonna know what to do. I mean, he's played a lot of tackle here, started for 2 years, he's played both tackles. I thought he did solidly. Took him a while to kind of get back in it. I think he only gave up one pressure on a rollout, and one time he had an outside zone, he missed the out call. Other than that, I thought he played solid, consistent. You know, he looked like his old self, so I was proud of him for being able to jump in there and execute like he did.
Good, Chris up front here.
How impressed were you by Jordan Travis, the way he pushed through last week, made sure he could play, and then how he did perform when he got out there?
Yeah, Jordan's toughness has, always been on display. From taking hits, taking shots, to getting up and keep going. So we were highly confident that he was going to play as long as he felt like he could. So, Jordan's a ball player. I would sing his praise to the end, but his toughness has been on display since I've known him. He's always been a tough guy to me.
Brendan?
4 wide receivers in 4 games have led 4 different games have led the team in receiving. Is that by design? Is that a matter of just taking what the defense gives you? And ultimately, is that a good thing to have that kind of balance?
I think it's just making the most of your opportunity, and it's not by design. We're not saying, hey, we're gonna try to scheme up and do something different. It's just, a little bit of all of it. But those guys, when their number has been called, they've been able to make the plays they need to be successful. But I'm proud of that group overall. Like I always make a point of that group pushes each other. And the best thing I see is whoever is having the success, you see the whole group swarm and be happy for them and almost beat them up on the sideline. So as long as that energy is up, I think it's gonna be, it's a good room.
Hassan?
Yeah, Coach, as offensive coordinator, how great does it make it your job, when you guys get a kickoff return and then an interception before your first snap, for offense? How great is that?
Well, yeah, it always makes it a little bit easier as you start when you get those hidden yards in the field position. So when you take the ball and when you get the ball in the first half, it's more of a field position kind of play. If the defense goes 3 and out, they kind of still in that hidden yardage coming back on the second drive. But when you're able to take it all the way back and then get an interception, that hidden yardage goes quickly. And now you have 14 points before you even get midway through the first quarter. So it kind of changes a little bit, momentum and things like that. But at the end, I've been in those where you start off like that and that momentum kind of dies. You still got to execute and communicate when it all comes down to it.
I've heard a couple other coaches from other teams talk about Micah, and the first thing they talk about is just kind of his physicality, and then you see it on display, the way he runs, the way he blocks. Did he kind of raise the level of that group? I'm not saying who's first; they're all physical, but what Micah does, is that significant in terms of just the way it impacts other people?
I think Micah gets it because when you look at him in stature, he's not very tall and big. Like Johnny blocks well. They all do a good job, but when you see Micah, he's a shorter guy, but he's a thick, rocked up dude. So I think he just brings, he brought that mentality with him, but it's also kind of the culture in the room the dudes has created, and with that position, if you have guys doing that part, the ball will find them, and they bought into that process. That's why you're having different guys, because the more you block, the more that DB has to worry about that, the more, he's looking at you, you slip him and go make those big plays. But now Mike is a tough dude, man. I see some coaches talk about him saying like a little thick, little running back type body. I don't know about that, but he is he's tough, man. And he got our punisher. He was one of our punish plays. We have these punish plays each week that we show in the offensive meeting, and he was one of them. So, he's gonna bring it, and we have to protect him from himself a lot, because he's like that in practice too. Like, look, we still, need you to be able to do this on Saturday. So sometimes we have to limit him because he will never limit himself.
Go to Brendan up front.
Can you elaborate on the punch plays, what exactly that is, how you grade them, roughly how many are you guys looking for? What counts as a good game with that?
Yeah, it's not really, it's not totality of game. It's just plays where we're saying you're showing the attitude we want to play with on offense. Whether it be knockdown blocks, whether it be chasing the ball, it's plays away from the ball that are made to show your buy-in, your intensity to the level that you're playing with. Now, we do have some with ball in hand. We've got some guys that made some big-time hits and ran through some guys with the ball, but, what is your intensity level when you don't have the ball, when you're away from the play, or your direct contact, like where this play doesn't work without this block, this particular situation. So really highlighting guys that don't get highlighted, and which is just as important as the play that's made. So you want to make sure you're addressing that, because, that if it goes unspoken about, if that's not getting the praise, they don't really want to do it. So we try to make sure we're letting them know this is why we're having success because of this attitude, this intensity, and these things away from the football.
Hassan?
Coach, you got, not many times you got a chance to play some reserve guys again in an ACC game. Who got, anyone get in that kind of impressed you in that game that you kind of stood out to you after?
Well, yeah, man, those guys are doing what we expect them to do. But, guys like, you saw what Tate did. He got in there. He was cool, calm, and collective. We got, Rodney Hill, had a big run in there, and he's coming along. He's going to be a special player, how explosive he is. We got some young linemen in there. Julian got in there, left tackle, got to get around a little bit. Rice and Estes got in there. Those young wide. We had like quite a few guys. We're playing a lot of people. That's one thing Coach said is, even the guys that got in late, we're still playing them a lot early in the game also. So, anytime you can get those guys in, like, every coach says, you want to give them as much experience, but also, Ball Scouts still had their group in there. They still had their one, so you get some good work against competition from a different jersey, so it's not the wide-eyed moment for some of those guys, that's developing and earning that time.
As a student of football, do you look at like what Coach Clausen does? Do you look at offense? Seems unorthodox. I don't know how many people do it at different levels, but
Yeah.
do you watch other offenses? Even though that's not the film you're studying that week, do you watch other offenses, and what do you think when you see what they do?
Yeah, we studied, like, even when I was at Charlotte, he was there, and over the past, they've had success on offense. Quarterback's a really good player. So you kind of study and see what they're doing well, and I'll give him credit. Just like most coaches, he adjusts to what he has, his personnel. And that's when you talk about being an offensive coach. Everybody has a scheme of what they do, but the scheme fits the players, what they do. So I would say, yes, Clausen does a good job on offense, and they have a system that fits the players. They execute it at a high level, and they believe in it, and they trust in it. So more about giving credit to doing something that fits the personnel that he has.
Alex, what does Wake do specifically defensively? I think they gave up a really big run on the first play of the game against Clemson and seemed to play pretty well against the run for a lot of that game. So is that something they do traditionally this season? Are they doing a good job of taking the run away?
Yeah, Wake has always been sound. They play fast, they're consistent, and their players don't second guess. They know exactly what they're doing. On that one play, a guy just kind of got out of the gap a little bit inside, and the guy got kind of caught looking, but Clemson came back to that play, and Wake shut it down. So it's they're known for soundness. Now they give the illusion that it's base, but they're very multiple in the little tweaks that they have, whether it be a twist, whether it be a coverage changeup, whether it be a pressure. They try to present it in the same package, make it look the same, which is good defense coordinators do, where you can't get a tip or a tendency on it. So, they're sound, they run 100 miles an hour, there's not a lot of hesitation in what they're doing, which allows them to play faster. So you gotta make sure you execute. That's a big thing Coach talked about is owning, our details have to show up, owning the football, making sure we're not missing, because if you make a mistake and get behind, it can hurt you against a good sound defense. So, last year we turned the ball over too many times. We gotta make sure the first thing we do is own the football. So, but no, they present some challenges because, it looks the same.
Trey, after the game, said that was he felt like he was back in high school again. His first time in a while since he felt totally comfortable. Have you seen him get more and more comfortable? Or is there anything that you're seeing differently now than maybe the first game of the season?
It's very similar to Corbin. Those guys have those injuries, and they coming back. They got to feel like themselves. Especially when you lower body limbs and you're a running back and guys are attacking your legs. It's confidence in knowing, okay, I'm all right. Once I get hit a couple times and start feeling like myself and getting back in the groove. But his confidence has been growing since camp. He's been going higher and higher, and his ceiling's getting higher. And the more that does, he's getting more opportunities. We want to get him the ball more and kind of keep building that confidence. So that was huge. But now Trey, I think he's back to his old self. So it's going to be fun to watch him.
When people look at the stats of that Clemson game, they see that Wake gave up a ton of passing yards and passing TDs. A lot of those plays, they were right there. The Clemson guy just went and made a play. I think one went through a Wake guy's hand. How important it is for your receivers, they're going to probably get some one-on-one chances, to just go make plays like those Clemson guys made, because they're going to get opportunities like those Clemson guys did.
Yeah, that's pretty much, every week, the game is about matchups. And you have to be careful because you might watch another team have success doing something, but your personnel doesn't fit what they do, or that's not what you do identity-wise. You have to still be you and do what the players can do, but also understand when their opportunity comes, they can take advantage of it. So, that's why we love college football, because we look at it as, this team versus this team, but it's really the matchup of what teams do well and what that team does well. Are they going to be able to still do what they do well despite this team taking it away, So it's being creative in the aspect of finding what our players execute at a high level and making sure we put them in position to still do what they've been doing, even though that other team might do something to kind of take that away. So how can we be creative and put our players in better position where they still understanding and it's not a total scheme change? But no, our receivers have shown, you know, they can make plays when it's necessary. And that's really got us out of some tough binds. You know, when you get behind the change a couple of times in that game, we were to make the big plays in the passing game where you still can kind of get those long drives like when we started and backed up and things like that. So, you know, our receivers' mindset is to, you know, they're going to make plays. So I've enjoyed having that.
Okay, thanks, coach.